shot, Todd. Pretty risky though here. How do you decide whether or not to go for it or to lay up? What is sort of the criteria for you on that?
I'd have to say that you kind of have to do the risk reward. I mean, there's 17's a unique hole. It's built really well. It's designed fantastically for the option of bailing out or trying to really kind of go for it. With me, when I get to that comfort zone, and for me it could be 180 to 200 yards, where I get a little bit nervous in terms of, can I carry the water? Can I carry it far enough to get the ball where I can be aggressive to go to the pin? Or do I really want to kind of play it out to the left? It gives me an option to it always gives me the ability to try to get the ball up and down and still be able to save par. If I'm in the go zone, I'd say anything at 170 yards is more goable or better for me to go for it. In other words, where I can look and attack the pin. I get past 180, maybe 200 yards, I'm going to be a little bit more reserved and kind of protect myself and aim a little bit more left, with the option of being able to get it up and down. Because if I don't carry that water, then I'm actually adding scores to my scorecard and bringing in the blow-up hole as opposed to trying to the recovery hole. So risk reward. Worst case scenario, I want to make a bogey. Best case scenario, I make a par. Perfect scenario, I'm going to make a birdie. So I have to really kind of do the math and the balance of what's going to really basically work for me in terms of what my odds are. So I kind of know where the comfort zone is. And the way 17 is set up, we have a green that actually funnels really well from left to right. So the left side's really not a bad option. But if you're going to bail out, choose a shorter club, not a bigger club. Because if you send that ball too far up into the hill, it makes for a very difficult up and down. So you got to leave yourself a shot coming back into the hole where you're not having to deal with the slope and the hillside.
But you're a very seasoned, experienced player. How does somebody who's maybe struggling with their game or new at their game determine whether or not the go-for-it strategy is right for them or the layup strategy? What sort of percentage should they expect to be able to accomplish that?
Well, from our conversations, that 70 percentile, I guess, is a great number to kind of go with. If you have a 70% success rate with the club that you have in your hands, then you have the idea of the direction that you want to go. So if you're at 70 or above percent of what your success rate is, then that's the go zone. If you're below 70%, then that's kind of the bailout or the protection zone. And hey, look at if you can chip, pitch, and putt or play in from a shortened distance, you always have the ability or opportunity to make par. Just don't take that option out of your hands. But if you pull the risk and you're going to go for a low percentile shot, which is going to be below the 70%, then you really kind of bring in the big number into play. And we want to eliminate the big number versus try to give us the ability to create the smallest number. There's nothing that says you can't chip it in or you can't get it up and down to save par, if you're confident in what your short game is. So don't put the big number in your hands. Always try to keep the shorter number in your hands.
Are there any exceptions to that, like any tournament situations where I'd want to go for the big number?
If you're in a tournament situation and you're in contention, the only thing you can do is take yourself out of contention at that point. All right? If you're trying to press forward and it's a go for it all you can do, then that's where you got to kind of roll the dice and let it go. But if you're in a position where, hey, look, you don't know what's going to happen, you still got another great finishing hole, which is 18, which is difficult for just about anybody. Don't take yourself out of play. Put yourself in a position to stay in competitiveness or stay in contention. Don't take yourself out. So for me, I'm going to be a little bit more conservative in that area because I just don't want to take myself out of the game.
If I'm an amateur player and I'm trying to figure out whether or not I can do that shot 70% of the time, I can't very well come out here on hole number 17 and hit 100 balls and see if 70 of them are on the green. What's a way that I could figure that out?
One of my recommendations is and I've said this to many people, but if you've got a hole on this golf course that gives you a lot of trouble, okay, you've got to pick a yardage on the driving range. Is that carry yardage or is the yardage that you really want to come up with? And imagine yourself playing the hole from that spot. So you pull the club out and say, hey, look, at a 5-iron is really what gives me the EBGBs, or a 6-iron or 8-iron, or whatever it is that's going to carry that water. You got to envision that hole while you're on the range. And it's nice that we have the poles out there now. You can actually zero in on a pole and know that that ball's got to land in a certain area in order for you to carry the problems. So you're going to imagine that you've got that hole in place in front of you, and you're going to make the swing and the shot that you've got to make. Hit 10 balls and find out if you're successful with 7 out of the 10. There's your 70% right there. So if I work on those things, because we can't exactly throw down 10, 20 balls here and just hit ball after ball after ball, that's not an option. Okay, but on the range you can work on it, and you can put the hole that you have envisioned in your head right there in front of you. You just have to re-hit shots and figure out what your odds are. And if you're failing below that 70%, that's not the odds-on shot. You got to take the one that goes to the left. It might be a little bit shorter, and take the trouble out of play.
That's really good input. So I can kind of get an idea of where I am. At the same time, I can see what I want to work on, and maybe I can get my odds up for that shot at some point.
Absolutely. And when you start getting that success rate, that when you get to 17, you have the confidence, and confidence is 900% of what it is that we're trying to do. If you're confident in the shot, then you believe you can see it. You can believe you can do it. Because when you are confident, it's amazing how that water doesn't exist anymore. Especially if you have confidence, because that's not really in play. It's not even a thought.
Well, thanks a lot, Todd.
You got it. More tips. Stay tuned.
See you guys next time.
You got it.